What's up, everybody? This is LA Knight, and I am back after, gosh, how long has it been? 6 months? 8 months? Something like that. The last review podcast that I posted doesn't count because I recorded that in, May of last year, before things got really crazy and I got really sick. Anyway, I have gotten my hands on some new technology, hopefully, a new app on my phone that lets me record my podcasts when I can't get out of bed. So hopefully that will lead to me being more regular about the things that I do. And also, hopefully, it will also get rid of that super hideous, annoying, squeaky background noise in my earlier podcasts. I hate that. Which, if that turns out to be true, I may end up re-recording those podcasts without the noise. But in the meantime, so I am here with a review for the book Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. Now, it's part of her series, The Parasol Protectorate. So it's steampunk with fantasy. And, that might seem a little redundant, but technically speaking, steampunk is sci-fi, and once you start bringing in the fantasy aspects, then it becomes either gaslight fantasy or Weird West, depending on where it's located. Gaslight fantasy, of course, is in, cities, like London or Boston or whatever, and Weird West is in the Old West. But this is steampunk because it uses actual steam technology, which is not actually very common in gaslight fantasy, versus because, as an example, Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare is marketed as steampunk, but it actually isn't. It's gaslight fantasy because they don't rely on steam-powered future tech in any way, as opposed to in Etiquette and Espionage, where they have things like, things that didn't exist at the time in real life. They didn't have dirigibles that people could, live on. I don't think they have that now. They didn't have automatons, clockwork servants in houses and things like that, which they have in the series Etiquette and Espionage. Etiquette and Espionage is also the young adult sub-series for Gail Carriger's Soulless series. That's not what it's called, but that's what the first book is called. I don't know what the series is called because I don't have any interest in reading it, which is for adults. It's an adult romance series about a woman who has no soul, apparently. Anyway, so you've got steam-powered technology, and then you've also got werewolves and vampires living alongside humans, and everyone knows about it. So, imagine the political and socio-economic situations that you might run into in, say, True Blood or Anita Blake, but in, 19th century England. And then you have this girl named Sophronia. She's the main character, and she is your typical rebellious princess for the time period. She likes science, and she likes to know how things work, and she sucks at embroidery, and forgets to hold out her pinky when she has a tea party, or, not a tea party, because that's not, really her thing, but when she has, tea visits and stuff with neighbors, and, her dresses are always dirty, because she's always getting into the machinery, and stuff like that, and her mom, of course, despairs of her, of making a lady of her, so, finally, her mom is like, you know what, we're shipping you off to boarding school, and Sophronia's like, I'm sorry, the fuck you say? And her mom is like, yes, our neighbor, Mrs. Barnacle Goose. I'm sorry. The names in this for some of the adults are hilarious. It's a comedy, but there is serious stuff in it. So, I guess maybe not comedy so much, and it's not really satire, but the balance of comedy and drama is very much like Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels, maybe. Slightly more balanced than the show Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So, when you read it, you're gonna laugh. But serious shit is also going down in this book. Also, by the way, I've given up trying to not swear. I think I might have said that in an earlier podcast, but, like, I've really given up because, like, my life is shit right now with my health and everything, and the world is going to hell, so, like, I have other things to worry about. Anyway, so her mom is like, yeah, we're shipping you off to boarding school. Mrs. Barnacle Goose has told us a perfect boarding school to send you to. They'll totally make a lady out of you. Mrs. Barnacle Goose, it may be noted, the first time you meet her is because Sophronia accidentally creams her in the chest with a custard pie. So, yeah. Mrs. Barnacle Goose, one would assume, does not have Sophronia's best interests at heart, since she is, understandably, a little pissed off that she got creamed in her apparently very ample bosom with a custard pie by a 14-year-old girl falling out of the dumbwaiter. So, she ends up going to this school. Well, it turns out it's not a boarding school for, you know, like, what you would expect. It's not like the finishing school where girls go to, like, learn to stick out their pinky, and, you know, because they can never remember, and to, like, you know, which handkerchief goes with which gown for which event, and how do you politely refuse a duke's offer of marriage. They're learning that stuff, too, but apparently it's actually a school for teenage spies. And also it floats, and one of their teachers is a vampire, and one of their teachers is a werewolf, and the werewolf is teaching them self-defense, and they learn things like how to, you know, avoid being hypnotized by vampires, and how to detect poison in tea, and how to put poison in tea, and stuff like that. And this is not at all what Sophronia is expecting, and her parents don't know that that's what's going on. And then it turns out also that there's a boys' school for evil geniuses. It's like the opposite school. Of course it's, you know, segregated by gender. Of course it is. They do talk a little bit about racial discrimination in the book, because it's the 1800s, obviously, and black people were not considered the equals of white people in 1800s London, or probably anywhere. So, like, there aren't a lot of people of color in the main cast because of the fact that it is a school for hoity-toity British, you know, aristocratic girls, most of whom are white. I feel like, you know, maybe one of them could have gotten away with being half Indian, maybe. But at the same, like, there's a girl who's white, but she's Scottish. And the fact that she's Scottish is like, oh my god, even worse, she was raised by werewolves. So, you know, whatever. But, so I feel like there could have been a little more, color, like, just, you know, Indian kids. Because, like, I realized that, like, half Indian children did deal with a lot of stigma, but at the same time, it was, I'm not gonna say really common, like, I mean, because, like, you get, I'm not gonna say as common as it is now for interracial couples, but it wasn't unheard of. It might have been, like, talked about in a disparaging way, but it wasn't unheard of, and it wasn't entirely disparaged, entirely disparaged, for a white British officer to take an Indian wife. And by Indian, I mean from India, by the way, because this is when they had colonized India. Other thing is, you don't actually know if in this alternate history, if they have colonized India. One would assume so, because of the things that they have access to, but I don't actually know that for a fact. Anyway, I would assume, though, that they did. Which then, if they did, like, you know, the ethnic dispersal, I guess, of mixed-race children would have been similar to actual England at the time. So I feel like there could have been at least a few young ladies, maybe, like, 2 or 3, who were half Indian or half Chinese, and there weren't. And I feel like there maybe should have been. But at the same time, like, I know it's really hard for historical fiction writers to even, if they want to do that, to justify doing that to editors and stuff. It's really hard to break the mold, I guess you could say. A lot of people don't realize how heterogeneous? I know the opposite is homogenous. How not homogenous certain places like England actually were back in the day. Anyway, sorry, I realized that was like a total random tangent. so Sophronia goes to school. She makes friends with this cute girl named Dimity, and I say cute, not like physically attractive cute. I don't know if she is or not. There's no pictures, but she's so adorable. And also, I listened to the audiobook, and so the narrator gave her a little bit of a lisp, and so like I automatically identified with her a little bit because when I was in school, I had a lisp because I still have a little bit of one, but it's sort of fixed because I had a huge gap between my teeth, my top and bottom teeth, and it caused me to lisp fairly badly. Kids used to make fun of me all the time. So, like, when Dimity started talking, I'm like, I love her! And then also she's just, like, super cute. She faints at the sight of blood, which is a problem because she wants to be a spy, but every time something important happens, you know, if somebody gets hurt, suddenly, boop, you know, she faints and falls over, and it's like, oops. So that's a problem. Also, there's a girl at the school who's super mean, and, you know, and for some reason I can't remember her name, and I think the reason I can't remember her name is because the entire time that I was reading the book and then telling my friend about it, there was something stuck to my finger. It is a cat hair. No, it's a whisker. That's why it's so stabby. When I was telling my friend about it, I just kept calling her that obnoxious cutthroat bitch. Which I suppose I should feel bad because I'm a grown-up and she's like 17, but I don't care because she's a little cutthroat bitch. And I don't like her. But you're not supposed to like her because she's mean. And it's not like you find out she actually had like a good reason to be mean. She really didn't. She's in it for herself, you know. Like, the thing is, they're supposed to be fighting for queen and country and all that, and learning to be spies for the government and shit, helping the British government with things, right? Unless they are hired out to other people. But when they're in school, have not been hired out to other people yet, so they still are supposed to be loyal to the British government. But she's not. Cutthroat bitch is just like, yeah, I'm in it for me. What about it? And nobody's okay with this. So even the, like, really selfish girls are like, you could at least be more subtle about it. And also the other thing is the teachers are like, the thing is, you think you are at a particular level and you're not. And she's like, yeah, I am. And they're like, no, you really are not as good as you think you are. Like, it's like that, what is that line in Game of Thrones that Tyrion says to Cersei? Cersei says to Tyrion, you're not half as clever as you think you are. And then Tyrion says that means he's still, like, twice as clever as she is. Something like that. Yeah, so she's not, the cutthroat bitch girl is, like, super mean. There is the cutest little girl, and I say little because she's, like, 7. All the other girls are, like, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think maybe one of them is, like, 18. Because, like, by the time you're 18, 19, you should have graduated. But so one of the girls is, like, 7. She's the niece of one of the teachers. And she dresses like a boy, so it takes them a while to figure out that... It takes Sophronia a while to figure out that she's actually a girl. Her name's Genevieve. It's actually... I thought... When I first heard her name, I thought it was Jean, like Jean-Luc, Jean, and then Vieve. Apparently, Genevieve is the French way to pronounce Genevieve. Because I saw it in writing, and I'm like, wait, who's that? Wait, that's how you spell that? She's so cute. I love her so much. She's so adorable. She's really smart. And I don't mean smart like, oh my god, 7-year-olds can't be smart. I mean, like, she's, like a technical genius. Like, I don't know how many people listening to this podcast have listened, or have watched, Star Trek The Next Generation. You've probably heard of the meme, Shut Up Wesley, from Star Trek. Wesley Crusher was, like, 13 years old, and he was apparently, like, the ultimate Mary Sue. He was great at, like, all the math and all the science, and got into Starfleet, like, super early and stuff, or whatever. I don't know. I didn't think he was that impressive. I didn't think he was annoying, but I didn't think he was that impressive. Anyway, but apparently he's, like, a super genius. So she's like Wesley, except a girl, and a lot younger. But the problem is, she wants to get into the boys' school for evil geniuses, which doesn't let girls in. And also she's not old enough to go to school yet. I guess, like, like, I guess some adults in England thought that kids had to be a certain age before they sent them off to boarding school, which really sort of pans out with history, because a lot of kids who got sent to boarding school when they were really little, especially if the boarding schools were, like, super strict, and were like, suffering builds character, kids died. Like, Jane and, not Jane, what's her name? Charlotte. Charlotte and Emily Bronte had two sisters who went to boarding school, got sick, and died. Because the school was just, like, they were young and not healthy, and the school didn't treat them in a way that encouraged them to be healthy, and it was always cold, and it was, so, like, sending kids to boarding school when they're super little is apparently not a good idea. So, there's Genevieve, there's Dimity, I love Dimity, there's the cutthroat bitch, who, she is important, but she's not really important, like, she's not gonna get anybody killed, per se, but the thing is that she had something on her when Sophronia, she was pretending to be the teacher who was supposed to take Sophronia to the boarding school. She was supposed to take Sophronia to the boarding school, but she was going undercover as, like, I'm super medicated right now, so I can't think of words. Not an alter ego. Like, she was in disguise, basically. That's not the word I wanted, but she's in disguise. And she goes to pick up Sophronia, but she has something. And the thing is, one of the things in the book is Sophronia's trying to figure out, the entire book, what it is. First of all, what it is. Second of all, why it's important. Why does everybody want it? What does it do? And where is it? Because Cutthroat Bitch is like, I'm not telling nobody where it is ever. Nah, 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 nah. And you think they'd, like, suspend her, or expel her. They do actually knock her back a class, because it was supposed to be her going to Sophronia's house and bringing her back was part of her graduation test, and she failed. So they knock her back a grade. The only reason they don't expel her is because she has a patron among the teachers. You don't find out who that is in this book. It's one of those, like, mysteries that gets solved later on. Although, I have my suspicions. Anyway, but, I don't think it's the bitch teacher. The bitch teacher is Genevieve's aunt. Genevieve's aunt is scary as hell. She's not, like, Snape scary. She's, like, McGonagall scary, but slightly less awesome. So, thankfully, this is one thing I like. None of the teachers are bullies so far. None of them are incompetent idiots like Lockhart, using Harry Potter teachers, because I figure everyone will know who they are. None of them are incompetent idiots like Lockhart. None of them are assholes like Snape. None of them are secretly evil bitches like Umbridge. And none of them are secretly working for the Dark Lord like Professor Quirrell. So far, the teachers have been strict, but fair. And they know what they're doing, and they're not picking on any of the kids. Granted, none of these teachers have any history with any of the children either, so, like, there would be no reason for them to be mean, other than, like, any kind of character-driven reason, other than just, they're awful. But they're not. The closest we get to awful is, like, very, very strict. The vampire teacher is hilarious, and the voice that the narrator for the audiobook gave him is, like, super adorable, and I love him. But I haven't talked about my favorite person. Okay, so my favorite person, besides Sophronia, in this series, so far, is Soap. So the school is is built on a giant floating dirigible. Okay? Which, like, we've invented dirigibles at some point. I mean, like, what was it, the Hindenburg that crashed and caught fire? I think it was the Hindenburg. It was, like, apparently some horribly traumatic thing that happened way back in the day. So we have, dirigibles, or had them. We don't really use them now because we have airplanes. But no one has ever actually, for real life, invented a dirigible as big as this school. It's, like, gigantic. And, yeah, so their school is a giant floating dirigible. And, of course, they have engines. And because it's steampunk, they have coal. They use boilers to heat water to make steam, and boilers, at the time that steam power was a big thing, were fueled by coal. So they have coal that needs to be, you know, brought in to the school and, like, kept in repositories, and they've got what are called sooties, and these are boys whose job it is to keep the boilers running, keep the machines going, and keep the school running, like the machine aspect of the school running, and their leader is this black kid named Soap. I don't know, they give you his real name, but it's only, like, one time, and they never actually tell, like, that no one ever uses it, like, nobody ever uses it, they just call him Soap, and I really like Soap. He's so cute. He reminds me of Peter Pan, and that's so weird, like, that's such a weird thing to say, because he doesn't look like Peter Pan, he doesn't really act like Peter Pan, like the Peter Pan from the book, you know, the 5-year-old child. Yes, Peter Pan is 5, we'll talk about that in another video, not the 5-year-old child from the book, I guess more like a less douchebaggy, because Soap is really nice, less douchebaggy version of the Peter Pan from the Jeremy Sumter movie from 2003. I'm dating myself here because that was, oh my gosh, that was 16 years ago. It's 2019? Yeah, it's 16 years ago almost. He's very, I don't know, he's like, he's smart and clever and kind, but also impish and gentlemanly, like, this is going to sound even weirder than the Peter Pan comparison, but if you were to take the BBC Sherlock Moriarty, make him not a psychopath, and make him, like, 15 years old, that's, I don't know, I can't explain it, but he's so fun to read about, and he's so nice, like, I don't know, maybe that's why I like him so much. Most of the boys in YA, not that they're all assholes, although a lot of them are, unfortunately, but even the ones that aren't, all have their trauma, right? Either, like, they've all got, you know, tragic backstories. I mean, seriously, look at, you know, Jace Lightwood, Damon Black, I'm trying to think now, because most of the YA that I've read recently, all the love interests are actually kind of old, like Rowan Whitethorn, but, you know, I mean, he doesn't really, Throne of Glass doesn't really count as YA, that's a discussion for a different day. Anyway, but, so I guess, like, maybe one of the reasons I love Soap so much is that he isn't all doom and gloom and, you know, my heart is an empty black hole kind of guy. You know, all the guys have so much either trauma or drama. That's what it is. YA boys have, and except in contemporary, I think. But I don't read a lot of contemporary because I think contemporary is boring for me. Like, not that it's boring objectively. I just don't like contemporary. I'm sort of thinking about starting to read To All the Boys I've Loved Before because I saw the movie, or I saw, like, half the movie, and it looked really cute, but at the same time, watching a movie takes a lot less time than reading a book. He's just doesn't have drama. As far as I know so far, he doesn't have trauma. He's not an asshole. He's a, what is it, a soft boy? He's soft. He's huggable. He's kind. He's sweet. He's gentlemanly. He has the manner. Ooh, I know who he reminds me of. He reminds me of Dickon from The Secret Garden. That's what it is. Okay, because they say in The Secret Garden, in the book, that Dickon would be at home in Buckingham Palace or in the lowliest cottage, and that's the kind of attitude that I get from Soap. He doesn't let people walk all over him, but he's not rude. He's nice to everybody unless you're an asshole to him, and then he'll, like, totally take you out. But he doesn't feel the need to, like, you know, he's not one of those guys that, like, you know, has to do the whole pissing contest, like, let's squeeze hands to see which one of us is stronger. Here, get a ruler and we'll whip our dicks out. He's not that kind of boy at all. He's just a wonderful boy, and I really think he's got a thing for Sophronia. I think that there's some little bit of romance going on there. And I hope so. I hope they get together. They're so cute. But at the same time, he is not only black, but he is common born, and she is the daughter of a quote-unquote gentleman. I think her dad's a lord, actually. And she's white. and it's 1800s England, so that could be a problem. But maybe not, you know what I mean? Because, like, the thing is, she's gonna be a spy, so, like, you don't have to get married. You know, she doesn't strike me as the kind of girl who would be like, oh, I'm not that kind of girl. I can't, you know, be with someone if we're not married. Because I don't think she can get married now with this job. Also, she's not, like, the eldest or even the second or third eldest. So it doesn't really matter if she gets married. Like, she doesn't need to, like, further the family line or anything, you know, hoping, you know, as long as nobody in her family dies, fingers crossed. So I think her and Soap could get together, and it would be really interesting and cute. They're super cute together, and they work well together, and he respects her. That's the thing that I really like. He respects her. Like, she doesn't have to prove herself to him. I mean, like, the fact that she's there, I think, is enough proof for him, you know? Like, she's at this, you don't just get to the school because your parents are like, hey, I want to send my kid to this school. You have to be recommended. You have to, especially because she doesn't have ties to the supernatural world, like apparently every other girl in the school does. Every other girl in the school either has, like, their family works for a vampire, or they were raised by werewolves, or their parents are evil geniuses. Dimity's both of her parents are evil geniuses. Her mom was, like, a spy for bad guys, and her dad was this evil super genius, and they fell in love because her mom was, like, supposed to assassinate him or something. I don't know. It was, like, super dramatic, and so, like, they let them off, like, instead of making her kill him, they, like, got married, but both had to retire from their jobs. And, like, her little brother's supposed to be an evil genius, but he just doesn't have the energy to be evil. He's like, oh, it's too much work. I just want to read my books. Anyway, but yeah, so, like, I don't know. I know Sophronia's the main character, but I love Soap. I love Sophronia, too. You know, I love all the girls in the, you know, Lady, I can't pronounce the Scottish girl's name, because it's Scottish and I'm a loser. But the girl who was raised by werewolves, I love her, although she is a little, like, standoffish, and so you don't really get a good gauge on her personality. But she doesn't do anything, like, super shitty or anything. And I really like Dimity, and I love Dimity. She's so cute. And I love Soap, and I love Genevieve, and I love Sophronia, but honestly, my favorite character is Soap. Just saying. Anyway, so I totally think, you know, you guys should absolutely read this book. It's hilarious. When I was going through a really rough time the last year, and my depression was really, really bad, this was one of the books that I actually, last year I didn't manage to read very many things because my depression was super bad, and this was one of the books that I read because I couldn't read anything that was super high stress, and this was exactly what I needed at that time. So I really recommend it. I think everyone should read it. It's hilarious. However, there are not enough people of color in the series. There's literally one, and that's Soap. Granted, he's the best character in the series, but still. Anyway, press the like button if you love me, subscribe for more of me. You can check me out on Tumblr, Twitter, fanfiction.net, and Patreon, which I will link in the doobly-doo down below. And shout out to my patrons, Amanda, Cawti, Chelsea, Cynthia, Dia, Gwen, Kim, Lina, Lorien, Marian, Morgan, Shinuka, Sydney, and Tina. I love you guys. You make this possible. And I swear, I will try to be more, regular about posting. My minimum goal is twice a month. I'm hoping to do at least once a week, but I don't want to promise. But twice a month, at least, I'm hoping. I'm really trying to be good about this, because one thing that's really good for depression is having a schedule. And since I am physically unable to hold a job, I don't have anything to cement my schedule. Other than you guys. Anyway, love you guys, and remember, have fun, read what you love, don't feel pressured to read books that suck, take care of yourselves, and I will see you guys, I'll talk to you guys next time. Where's my stylus? I lost it. Oh no! Oh, there it is. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!